Port Authority, and with Dr. Nirav Shah, who is the New York State Health Commissioner. A brief update on the weather, then we'll get into our announcements. We just finished another briefing with the National Weather Service. I think you know what we know at this point. The storm weakened overnight to tropical storm, then intensified this morning back to a Category 1 hurricane. National Weather Service believes there is increasing potential for high winds, for coastal flooding, for heavy rains across a broad area for a lengthy period of time, Sunday through Tuesday. While the exact landfall of the storm is uncertain, it is known it's over a very broad area, and if it is to the south of the metropolitan area, the heaviest rains, heaviest winds, heaviest storm surge would be in the New York City, Long Island, and downstate region. The effects could be significant on utilities and the transportation system and on public safety as well. To deal with those possible impacts, yesterday the governor took a series of actions. Just recap them for you here. The governor directed a state of emergency throughout all counties in the state of New York. State of emergency allows the state to assist localities in their planning and preparation for the storm in a most efficient manner, and also allows the state to access federal assistance through FEMA and other programs as well. We also activated the State Emergency Operations Center, and the governor directed all state agencies across the state to begin their preparation for the storm as well. In addition, we yesterday were very concerned about utilities. We continue to be concerned about utilities with wind and rain and saturated ground. We hosted a conference call yesterday with every utility CEO in the state. We're continuing to have those discussions with them to put them on alert. The utilities are mobilizing their resources, including 2,600 crew members to assist in storm preparation. The governor has directed the chairman of the Public Service Commission, which oversees state utilities, to the Long Island Power Authority in particular because of the potential for damage to that system, and we expect additional crews to be dispatched depending on what the exact outcome of the storm is. And then that brings us to today's discussion. The governor has also directed the MTA and the Port Authority to develop their contingency plans for the transit and transportation systems in New York, in the metropolitan area. The transit system is particularly vulnerable to water and to wind. It takes time to plan for any change in services to the system. Everyone understands the importance of the transit systems to the city's economy, to the state and the regional economy, and of course the great inconvenience that closing a system presents to residents throughout the region. Closing a system is a last resort, but we also believe it's important to be prepared. As you'll hear from Chairman Loda in a moment, we are not ordering a shutdown of the system today, but we are putting into place a contingency plan for the possibility of a shutdown, and you'll hear the details of that plan in a moment. This will give adequate time to everyone in the region to understand what the possibility is for curtailment of transit service without forcing us to make that decision prematurely today until we know more about the storm track. We would anticipate having more information tomorrow and making a final decision tomorrow. We believe that planning ahead is important and providing early alerts to the public is important. That's the purpose of today's discussion. Let me ask Chairman Loda to give you the details on that.
Thank you, Howard. As Howard said, no decisions are being made yet, but planning is going on at the MTA, both at New York City Transit, the subway and bus system, as well as the Long Island Railroad, Metro North, Bridges and Tunnels, and the MTA Bus Company. That being said, if the storm continues on the path that it's on, and it's not being very consistent from hour to hour, but if it continues as where we are, and we're talking about tropical storm winds, sometimes Sunday night into Monday morning, as well as a surge of 4 to 8 feet, it's of great concern to the entire transportation system in New York. Accordingly, we're not making any decision now. Decision will be made tomorrow. Our contingency plan is right now that if it's a decision to have a curtailment of service, that curtailment of service would start at 7 p.m. tomorrow night, Sunday night, with the fact that there will be less bus service, less subway service, starting at 7 p.m. tomorrow night, with the idea that the service will be stopped by 3 a.m. in the morning. Meaning, if that in fact happens, and it's my hope that it doesn't happen, that the storm dissipates as we expect it to, that there could possibly not be service on Monday. We don't want that to happen. We want to wait until we have enough information about what's going on with the storm. The commuter railroads as well, if in fact the decision is that we need to shut it down to protect our customers, to protect our employees, as well as to protect our assets, the contingency right now is that the last train on Metro North would leave at 7 p.m. on Saturday night, and the last train would leave Penn Station for Long Island Railroad also at 7 p.m. on Sunday night. Bottom line on all of this is that we're planning for the worst, we're hoping for the best, and decisions on this will be made tomorrow. I think it's very important that all of the New Yorkers know what is the possibility, with the critical date being 7 p.m. tomorrow night. If you're coming in the city or traveling on any of the railroads, it is very critical that you plan accordingly. As far as the bridges are concerned, the concern there is always wind. Right now, we have, anytime it approaches between 39 miles per hour of wind up to 50, we start to see slowdowns on the bridges. I will tell you, each and every one of the MTA bridges will shut down if we get up to 60-mile-an-hour winds. It's my hope, as I said before, that that doesn't happen. Howard?
Thank you very much, Joe. I'm going to ask Pat Foy, Executive Director of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, to update us specifically on the aviation situation, and Pat has been out to the airports this morning.
Thank you, Howard. I want to begin by emphasizing the extensive preparation that has gone on over the last 6 months. Last Saturday, there were 2 drills, one at JFK, another at Newark. Over the last 6 months, we've had tabletop and full-scale exercises with respect to hurricane and storm SURES events. I was at LaGuardia, as Howard mentioned earlier today. I'm going to stop by Kennedy later. Operations at LaGuardia are normal for a Saturday in October. The same reports are coming from JFK and Newark. So normal operations today. Operations we expect will continue. The advice we'd have would be to check with your air carrier before going to any of JFK, LaGuardia, or Newark, whether you're taking off or meeting families. On a typical Saturday in October, there were about 300,000 passengers that would come through Newark, LaGuardia, and Kennedy. That's about 3,000 flight operations, so this is a significant number of both flights and passengers, and we'll be keeping together with Howard Glazer, keeping you apprised of the status of conditions at each of the airports.
Dr. Nirav Shah is Commissioner of the State Department of Health. He's been working closely with localities and public health departments around the state. I think power outages are one of the concerns in ensuring that we have safety considerations taken into account for patients at the hospitals. Dr. Shah.
Thank you, Howard. So as Howard mentioned, our primary concern relates to prolonged power outages in healthcare facilities. Statewide, this means that all healthcare facilities should check their generators, check their fuel levels, and make sure they have adequate food and other supplies, including medication, for such an incident. Particular planning is needed for any patients who are dependent on electrical equipment. This includes patients on ventilators, on oxygen concentrators, and other considerations for patients who require dialysis. We suggest that dialysis facilities consider staying open on Sunday to dialyze as many patients as possible who are otherwise due for their dialysis on Monday through Wednesday. In Metro New York, all nursing homes and adult homes are required to bring staffing levels up to 150% of normal staffing levels by 5 p.m. tomorrow. This is important because we don't know what's going to happen in terms of transportation, and we want to make sure that should a prolonged power outage occur, there will be adequate staff to care for patients in these settings. In the slosh zone, which is a technical term, it includes Zone A of the slosh zone of the Rockaways, Northeast Queens, and eastern shore of Brooklyn. All nursing homes will be required to move ventilator-dependent patients outside that slosh zone by 5 p.m. Sunday. Ambulances will be available to help. There are over 2,300 ambulances in the region already identified, and a series of calls are scheduled with all affected facilities later this afternoon. In addition, I'll have calls with county health commissioners later today to bring everyone up to speed. Thank you.
Okay, and again, our message is to hope for the best. We prepare for the worst. That's what the agencies behind me are doing, and with that, we'll take any questions.
When do the evacuations start? At this point, is it mandatory, or at what point will you make that determination, and then when will the moving of the patients start?
The only evacuations are related to ventilator-dependent patients in a few facilities in the areas that are most likely to have water issues. Those evacuations can occur as soon as now. We have calls scheduled for later this afternoon with each of the facilities. We are working to arrange ambulance service and receiving hospitals for each facility. So this is happening now as we speak and will continue until 5 p.m. tomorrow.
About how many?
There are about 61 patients total affected as of now.
In terms of the MTA, do you still see any boarding up at subway stations today, or was that all done yesterday? In terms of securing any type of trains or equipment from water damage, movement of trains to the north?
All of our trains are working as normal today, so no, there's been no storage, but there has been preparatory work because of the amount of lead time necessary if, in fact, we start seeing surges of anywhere from 4 to 8 feet. So there have been some places in Lower Manhattan as well as in the Bronx, as well as some other preparatory work that's being done out on Long Island, on the eastern end of Long Island, where we're very concerned about the low-lying areas. So you'll see some sandbags, you'll see some plywood on top of some of the vents, but some basic things that can easily be picked up immediately after the event happens.
So just to be clear, if you stop service, as you mentioned, by 7 p.m. tomorrow, that is when you would relocate those trains that are typically housed in Lower Manhattan to higher ground?
Well, no trains are housed in Lower Manhattan, but what will happen is that we would have to house our subway system underground in higher locations. In some of our, so all throughout the system it'll be used, similar to what happened with Hurricane Irene, or Tropical Storm Irene 2 years ago. That won't happen until we get a go decision sometime tomorrow, and then it'll be started at 7 p.m. up until 3 a.m. So there will be inconsistent service after 7 o'clock. So I really encourage all New Yorkers to really try to be home or try to be where you need to be by 7 o'clock, because there's no guarantee of service after that. It'll be inconsistent while we're putting all of our assets under control.
Also, in terms of the utility companies, I know in New Jersey, they've already put other states on standby. Is that happening as well? And if so, how many?
Yeah, we have requests in, as other states do, for additional resources in the event of a storm. It's called mutual aid, and every state is part of a compact that allows a utility out of state to send crews and equipment in state. And we have a reservation, if you will, for many thousands of people to come in from outside the region. The issue right now is you don't know exactly where this impact of the storm will be. Other utilities in the Northeast are all going to be needing additional assistance. So we're working with states from the Midwest and the Southeast that will not be affected by this impact to bring those resources into New York, and we expect to be very fully staffed up once we know where the storm hits.
How frequently are the OEM briefings, and at what time should we expect another update?
We'll do briefings as necessary. I think that I'm not sure we'll have another briefing today at this point, because I'm not sure there'll be that much more information about the storm track, but tomorrow for sure. Okay, all right, thanks very much.
Thank you.
December 11th.